Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's coffee talk from PlanetFair. My name is Henrike, and I'm very happy to talk with a guest today. Her name is Sue. And Sue, please tell us very little about you. Who are you? What do you do?
Hi, Henrike. Thanks very much for inviting me to talk with you today. And hello, everybody. My name's Sue Black. I'm Professor of Computer Science and Technology Evangelist at Durham University in the UK. So I come from a software engineering background, I guess, as an academic, and I've also done lots of work around diversity and inclusion, women in tech, run various programs to help get more women into technology.
I remember when I first met you on this small, very cold island called Iceland. That's
Yes.
where we met
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing you talk, and then we started to chat later together, and we really fell into this AI hole. And I really remember the discussion was very broad. And in my head, your favorite topic is bias in AI, and that's what I want to discuss with you. What is bias in AI? If I would have never heard of that before.
Wow, well that's hard to put into a nutshell, but I'll try. I guess when I first really came across it and started to understand what it was probably two things. So one, there's a documentary on Netflix called Coded Bias. And so from the beginning of that, you kind of get an idea of a type of bias in AI. So in the documentary, there's a student who's the main person in the documentary. She's a computer science student at MIT doing her PhD, and she's working with some facial recognition software. So she wants to get it working. She gets it on her computer. She sits down in front of the screen, and it should recognize her face. Um, and it doesn't recognize her face, and she can't work out why. Why isn't it working? So she asks a colleague to come and sit down and see if it works for them. And straight away, she can see that it's recognizing their face, their features, and realizing that, so her colleague is white and she is black with dark skin, and realizes quite quickly that actually the software is not picking up her face at all, because it's mainly been trained on people with white, or white people with lighter skin, and it hasn't really been trained to work on people with darker skins. And so there's obviously some sort of bias in the system, which is created by the data that's gone into to create the system, the AI system. Um, not the people that have programmed this system, use the AI to create it, haven't thought about the fact that people have all different shades of skin, and so then the software needs to work for people with all different shades of skin. So there's some kind of bias in the system there that you can see it doesn't work for people with darker skins, and that can still be a problem in software that we've got now. So there's various ways that the bias kind of manifests itself. There's another story I can tell you about one of my PhD students. When I started working with her, we were trying to, we were kind of like tossing ideas around, like, what are you going to look at for your PhD? And we ended up chatting to a colleague who's an AI professor, and talking to him about this new thing, which was called back then GPT-2, which is like a precursor to ChatGPT that we all know now. And he showed us this, and we were like, wow, that's amazing. You can type something in, it'll give you answers, interesting stuff. So we kind of went away and started playing around with it. And we were talking about, we're both interested in bias. Can we find any bias in this system? And so we thought, well, we'll just type in something very, very generic and see what it comes back with. So we decided to type in men can, and then see kind of how it filled that sentence, and then women can, and the same thing, and see what it came back with. And we found quite quickly that actually the responses from the AI to men can and women can was very different. So with, in fact, my PhD student, that became the topic of her PhD. And so now she's done a test. So she took 10,000 responses. So typing in men can and women can, 10,000 responses to men can, 10,000 for women can. And what the results show, she did some topic clustering. So to cluster the answers together for the individual men can and women can. And so for men can, the top few topics that come up are superheroes, are like God and religion and drinking alcohol. But then for women, it's very different. It's some kind of like sexualized violence, abortion. So, not what you would hope would come back. And so it showed quite clearly that there is bias in the system. Does that help, Henrike?
I hope so. I hope it's new stuff for the people that are listening to us. And I think some might know, but I have the feeling that it's still a topic that many have not so many clues about, or you start using it. And now, since a couple of months or whatever time that is now with ChatGPT and all the different co-pilots and Geminis and whatever they are called, so many around.
Yeah.
People start using it and they don't realize about this. And my favorite topic is fair pay. Now, if I think about fair pay and fairness in the workplace, where we want to make sure that every human being is treated equally and has the same chances, no matter of color, gender, or whatever. And now I think of how AI will be used more and more in these fields, I suppose. I'm already getting tons of ideas just from the points that you made of how this can influence. Now, the question would be, how do we get rid of that? What would be the quick answer to what do we need to, how could we, what would we need to tell the AI so that it doesn't have a bias anymore? Or are we the problem? Or can we teach it to not have it? What do you think?
Well, so I think, first of all, the first kind of step is to be aware that there is bias in AI systems and to all be aware of that. And also, I think it's probably impossible to completely get rid of bias because, like you're saying, we're all biased as human beings, and some of that will be conscious bias and some will be unconscious bias. So how do you get rid of unconscious bias if you don't even know it's there, right? So we can't get rid of it completely. But I think awareness is, for me, like the first thing, to just be aware that these systems can be biased. And so, for example, ChatGPT, like practically the whole internet was scraped to create the data which is in there, which is being used every time every time you're putting a prompt in. And lots of that is biased. So, just be aware that the output you're getting from your AI systems may be biased. And actually, I gave a keynote at the AI Summit in Doha in December, and I was asked, so how, same sort of question, like, how do we make sure that systems aren't biased? And basically, we can't do that. So, what's the best next steps? And, everyone's talking about regulation. We need to regulate the systems. And absolutely, that's very important. But the point that I was making was that we need to educate people, or we all need to educate ourselves, because the more that we understand about what's going on, the more that we can then judge, well, does this seem biased? So, we need the sort of humans in the loop, and we need ourselves to educate ourselves, and just be aware that there could be bias in there, so that if we get results from the AI that don't seem to make sense, well, then investigate and work out, well, why has that happened? Does it make sense or not? Yeah. So I don't think we can get rid of the bias, but we can educate ourselves to help us be aware of when it might occur.
I think I'm going to start trying to use prompts where I explain that I want to have a leveled out answer based on different genders and things. Yeah. I will test this. So this is... Yeah. And now I'm going to start integrating these informations into prompts and see if I get different results. As you see, I'm starting to use this as well. So, but I want to make sure. So I think it's a very good starting point. Thank you very much. Our 8 minutes are over, but I think the part of education is what really is important, and it might lead to us having another coffee talk in the future, or we make a long version of it and make a big discussion. But is there one last thing that you would like to leave for the listeners?
I think, well, so my best advice is really just watch that documentary on Netflix, Coded Bias, if you can access it, because it just really shows you that kind of like the whole situation as it is in a very easy to interesting format.
Coded Bias. So that's our next movie night.
That's your homework.
Thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.